Growing up as a pastor's son, I never really had to make religious decisions for myself. I belonged to the church where my dad preached, and that was that. I was born in the small town of Sundance, Wyoming, where my father had his first gig as a full-time pastor. In a town of only 1,000 people, there wasn't much religious diversity. Either you went to one of the two churches in town, or you didn't. We moved to the next church before I was 2 years old in Rochester, Minnesota. This is where my sister was born, and where I was baptized. Once again in a suburban area, only going to my father's church. I wasn't exposed to any other religions. The same thing happened yet again as we moved to Hutchinson, Minnesota, where my father was a pastor of the Vineyard United Methodist Church. Here I grew old enough to learn more about my family's religion and became very active in the family of the church. My parents had always told me that the church family was like any other extended family, and they would always be there for me. I grew up with this mentality and always found support in the community of the church. Eventually, we made our final move to Eau Claire, Wisconsin when I was 10 years old. My father quit his job as a pastor while my mother made the money for the family so us kids could go through high school without having to move. Suddenly, our family was lost without a church community, whereas in the past it had been taken for granted being the family of a pastor. My father decided it would be a good learning experience for us as a family to explore the different churches in town to find one we liked. This is when my eyes finally opened to the vast diversity of religions, and we were only exploring the many types of Christianity. I was surprised to find that those churches would claim to be from the same common descent and be so incredibly different. After a few years of exploring every Sunday, we eventually settled down at Lake Street Methodist Church, where we found a church community we related to best. At this point, my father took up a part-time job as a pastor at this church, and we found ourselves in a similar position we were used to. After a while, my parents began creating a vision of a place where mind, body, and spirit is a focus beyond any religion. At the time, it seemed ambitious in the town of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, but things began to fall into place as if it were destined for this vision to become reality. Synchronicity began to drive this vision into reality as my parents found themselves surrounded by people with the same vision. Reikiists, mediums, yoga and meditation instructors, these were the people who came together to create the center. At the same point, the center was created. My father quit his job as pastor and began writing a book. This book would embody all that my father has learned in his years as a pastor, as well as his philosophy on life, death, and the reality of living. It is called The Rest That Works. At this point, our lives had been drastically changed by this new way of living, and now it had become the norm. At the center, I have met many people from very different religious backgrounds, mostly Christians, and seen them take up very Eastern and spiritual forms of religion. Talking about the energy and everything, our chakras, and the spirits that guide us become the new topics of family dinners. At points, I found myself conflicted by the different beliefs I held from my religious background and this new spiritual way of living. At times, I would find compromises that satisfied both, and this has become the system of beliefs I hold on to now. I believe it is true that the more I have learned about different religions and spirituality, I have realized I know so little about the true nature of what Eastern religions call Brahman, Abrahamic religions call God, and Spirit calls the cosmic energy of everything. It is defined so differently in each system of beliefs that I find myself wondering who is right, or even if anyone is right. The complexity of this higher being or energy has kept me puzzled and always in search of answers. Everyone has their own beliefs, either rooted in ancestry or entirely new from new experiences. If you were to ask my parents or siblings what religion they are, they would probably smirk or laugh a little and say, "That's a long story," or "It's complicated." I found myself sharing many beliefs with my parents, but also having my own version or take on each idea. My father's book summarizes my beliefs well, but also I would say I do not find myself as confident in those beliefs. I do not claim to fully understand anything in the religious or spiritual world, and hold no concrete beliefs. I am simply a student to learning the many perspectives that hold meaning, and hope to one day understand them enough to create my own perspective. I would say I'm religious, but not devoted, and spiritual, but vigilant. My mother always says that she practices the religion of love, and as of now, that is all I truly have faith in. I believe there is no problem, pain, or loss that cannot be healed by love. As cheesy as it sounds, but this belief is the one belief that has never failed me. Today I find myself in an interesting position. I no longer live with my family that follows a strong religious and spiritual way of living, and I am free to choose where I go more than ever before. So far I have followed my passion for adventure. There is a knowledge and wisdom to the beauty of our world, and it is that which I try to fully understand. My diverse religious background has led me to this point and inspired me to explore the many religions I do not yet understand.